welcome back to the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Cade Nagyar, bringing you episodes every single Friday, giving you your local Daytona State sports news, as well as NFL, NBA, college football, and college basketball news. Let's get right into it. Joe Flacco is now benched. Oregon QB Dillon Gabriel now in line to start for the Browns. Out the draft, I said that Dillon Gabriel is the best QB in this draft class, and I'll tell you why. He gives me Bo Nix vibes from last year. He's an older QB with a lot of experience already. He's made it to a college football playoff with a good Oregon team. I love this dude's decision making, and I think it was a no-brainer to start him over a guy like Shedeur Sanders. We've seen a guy like Shedeur Sanders come out and kind of bash it, and you know, Shedeur Sanders needs to realize that he is, at the end of the day, he's a fifth-round pick. He's not going to be valued as much as a Dillon Gabriel as a third-round pick. Why do you think that the Browns selected a guy like Dillon Gabriel in the third round over Shedeur Sanders? I think, one, he's more mature. Two, he makes better decisions with the football. And I think going forward for this Browns offense, you'll still start to see kind of like a Jackson Dart scenario where they're really going to open up an element of this offense now because Dillon Gabriel's back there. They have pieces over on the Browns roster that I really love. I talked about it last week. Harold Fannin. He's amazing in my eyes. David Njoku still there. Jerry Jeudy looks amazing. Quinshon Judkins looks like a top 10 back right now as a rookie. So when you see this Browns offense, you're like, we're only a quarterback away from really competing on offense. And combine that with the best defense in the league in my eyes, you got a playoff team and you got to go and do something with it. So I think Dillon Gabriel starting now is going to be the good move in the end of the day for this Browns team going forward. Next up, two more elite receivers are now out for season, in Malik Nabers and Tyreek Hill, both with torn ACLs, and Tyreek with a dislocated knee as well. It hurts for the Giants, huge in my eyes, because you just got momentum with a guy like Jackson Dart now starting, and he got a huge win against a great Chargers team. We'll get into that later. But now you have to rely on guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, which, yes, I do love, by the way, but also I thought about Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton. These guys have to step up for this Giants receiving offense and help out Jackson Dart in a way so that they can compete in the NFC. They need to carry this team, right? These Giants receivers, it's been, I don't even know how long since I've really looked at a Giants receiver and I said, wow, this guy is amazing. Malik Nabers was going to be one of those guys, and now he's hurt, and it seems like now they're kind of scrambling for answers here. Wan'Dale Robinson could be that guy, but Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton need to step up in the end of the day. For Tyreek, it feels like a bittersweet moment for him because he doesn't have to play for the Dolphins anymore like he wanted, but he can't be traded to a contending team that needs a receiver like the Chiefs and compete for a Super Bowl again this year. I think that come trade deadline, if Tyreek Hill didn't get injured, he was going to be one of those guys that was going to get traded to a contending team like a Bills or a Chiefs. Maybe even the Giants. He could have been traded to the Giants too with Malik Nabers, but now they're both out, and these really hurt both of these teams in ways. So, a lot of elite receivers and a lot of elite talents in general in this league are being injured and ridiculed by injury right now, and teams are scrambling for answers to figure out what to do. What's the next step of action? So, NFL recaps here. Vikings versus Steelers. I will say here, Kenneth Gainwell was running very hard this game. He had 19 carries for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 6 receptions. So he was getting 25 touches over in the Steelers uniform, and they came out successful in that game. Keep giving the ball to Gainwell. If Gainwell produces like this for most weeks, I think that the Steelers will start to see a whole lot of success on this offense going forward. Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf are starting to find a connection. 5 receptions for 126 yards and a touchdown for DK Metcalf. The Vikings played okay, except the 2 interceptions thrown by Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz didn't really play a horrible game. Take those 2 interceptions away, he played a solid game. He was competing. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are back and better than ever. They had a combined 14 receptions for 240 yards. The Pittsburgh's defense got takeaways, and they had 6 sacks. In the end of the day, that's why the Steelers won this game, because their defense is just so dominant, like we thought in the preseason. One guy on the Vikings defense that stood out to me is Jalen Redmond. The nose tackle for the Vikings got 2 sacks and has been really good for this Vikings D-line this year. Not too shabby for a former USFL player, but the Steelers get the dub 24-21. Eagles versus Bucks. Both teams had their moments in this game for me. First half, the Eagles shined. They put up 20 points in the first half. They had that blocked punt that really gave them momentum early. Then the Bucks in the second half with a couple really explosive plays to put the Bucks right there in contention to win the game. When you play a team like the Eagles, you can't afford to get your punt blocked for a TD early. You set your team up for failure by doing so. It's just like playing the 2021-2022 Chiefs. Once you got down early, you're not going to crawl out of that hole. You cannot make mistakes against championship contender teams. You can't. It's unaffordable. Once the Eagles got up in this game, they played not to lose. Very conservative. The Bucks were right there in the end, like they have this season, and Baker couldn't save them this game. Bucky Irving played really well with over 160 scrimmage yards and a touchdown. Emeka also played well with 101 yards and a touchdown. What lost this game for them was simply they couldn't value the football as much as the Eagles did this game. And the Eagles end up winning 31-25. Jaguars versus Niners. I might as well call this Jacksonville's defense Strapsonville. They have the most takeaways in the league, and they had 4 this game. Devin Lloyd was everywhere this game. He had 2 pass deflections and 2 interceptions. This Eagles offense still has to put it together in my eyes, but Travis Etienne looked very good. He had 124 yards and a touchdown this game. The 49ers had far too many takeaways and did not have any answers for this Jags defense. I expected a guy like Brock Purdy. When I saw that he was starting this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I said, there's no way the Jags have a chance at winning this game. They are simply just very dominant, with Brock Purdy in there. And, it's un-Brock Purdy-like to not value the football like he did this game. Like I said, Devin Lloyd was everywhere. He should win AFC Defensive Player of the Week easily. Giants versus Chargers. I wanted to talk about this game very badly because, what did I say? Since episode 1, I've been saying that Jackson Dart should be the starter for the Giants. And he finally got a shot here. I was excited. Jackson Dart comes in, wins against a hot Chargers team. He looked good while doing so. Made really good decisions, and I'm really high on Dart. I think he can be a top 15 QB by the end of this year. The loss of Neighbors hurts, but Dart did with what he had at the end of the day. I'm not worried about the Chargers, though. Just like every year, their team drops like flies. I don't understand what's over there in LA, but all these great players, Rashawn Slater, not even since like 2018, the Chargers cannot stay healthy. They always have a great team on paper in preseason. They do. They make those moves to get these good players, and they can't stay healthy. So that's why they're not going to be playing that. That's why the Chargers can't compete, because they never had the players to do it. They always have to scramble and find what players are going to help them win. So, I'm not worried about the Chargers that much, but health-wise, I am. Performance-wise, I'm not that worried, but health-wise, yes, I am. Herbert didn't really play great this game. He had two turnovers, but Omarion Hampton with a statement game, 128 yards and a touchdown. Both of these teams will be dangerous going forward in my eyes, but the Giants win 21-18 in a stunner. Titans versus Texans. There's not much to say about this game. The Titans, they look bad. They are bad. I don't like Cam Ward, but I do feel bad because he has absolutely nobody to help him on offense. When your leading receiver, when your wide receiver 1 is Calvin Ridley, and you have Io Manor at wide receiver 2, which I do like, by the way, it's just very, it's underwhelming to see what that Titans offense is. It's very underwhelming to me. They don't have a good offensive line either. They have nothing. over there for Cam Ward. And they need to grow that going into next season if they're going to, play for a pick and then see what you can get, because Cam Ward, he needs those pieces around him. That's the problem. That's the joy of being a number one pick QB, is that you go to the worst team. And when you get there, you don't really have pieces. It looks sloppy for the most part. There's only an exceptional few who really do with what they got. And these are the elite QBs like a Jaden Daniels. CJ Stroud's fallen off a little bit, like I've said, but CJ Stroud is one of a few that have went in and did with what they had, did with what he had over in the Texans uniform. But it's hard with that Titans roster to do anything with it. So I'm not worried about Cam Ward. I'm not saying I like the guy, because I see flaws in his game as far as he's holding the ball way too long. His pocket presence isn't very strong. He gives me Caleb Williams vibes by far. He just thinks he's the best athlete on the field, and he's not anymore. He's not. So the Texans, though, let's talk about the Texans. They finally get the win that they needed. Let's see if they can carry this momentum into next week. Woody Marks looks very promising. Over 100 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. And, simply the Texans shut out the Titans as expected, 26-0. Commanders versus Falcons. Very offensive heavy game here. Mariota looks solid. I came up with this past week. Mariota could be a trade target for the Bengals in the end of the day. He threw 2 passing touchdowns and only 1 interception. Luke McCaffrey looks very good. He had a receiving touchdown. And then Bijan Robinson and Drake London showing out for the Falcons, each with 100 yards receiving, 2 rushing touchdowns for the Falcons as well. Penix looked a lot better this game. I don't know what happened when he played the Panthers, but he looked a lot better this game. And the Falcons win this shootout 34-27. Lions versus Browns. This game was super competitive for 3 quarters, then it slipped for the Browns. Joe Flacco didn't even give him much of a shot to win this game the way it was played. Judkins picking up where he left off, 82 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Bond looks promising as well. I'm glad they picked them up, because I was wondering, what was going to happen to Isaiah Bond when he got there. He had all that off the field issues that made him not be a first round draft pick like he should have been. And, he had 58 yards for this Browns offense, and he got signed a few weeks ago. So that's very promising for them. He could be an elite receiver for the Browns going forward with Jerry Jeudy alongside. This Browns defense was playing good until he got discouraged because the offense can't put up no points. We talk about this all the time on this podcast. If you're an NFL offense and you can't put up points, your defense is going to get discouraged very quickly because there's nothing happening. That defense goes in, gets a stop, goes in, gets a stop, goes in, gets a stop. And you're like, man, we must have like 20 points by now. No, they don't. They're losing by 3 because they can't score. So, the Browns defense, they tried, but at a certain point you get discouraged. Shout out to DJ Reed. He's playing very well this year. He had a beautiful interception this game, and he had that fumble recovery last week off the Derrick Henry fumble. Amon-Ra had 2 touchdowns. Gibbs had 91 yards in the touchdown. Lions win comfortably at home, 34-10. I think the Lions, ever since week 1, they've just picked right back up where they left off last season. And, they're going to be very competitive in the NFC. They might be better than the Eagles right now. They look more polished for sure. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's a Lions-Eagles matchup here. I would love to see that. Rams versus Colts. This game was expected, very competitive. It was very competitive. Matthew Stafford played amazing. 3 passing touchdowns, threw for 375 yards. Puka Nacua, 13 receptions for 170 yards and a touchdown. Best receiver in the league, no doubt. I will get into this. He's on pace to break records, man. He's on pace to have the best receiving season of all time. And I wouldn't be shocked if that happened because Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua have that chemistry ever since week 1 of Puka Nacua's career. He looks fantastic. Big play by Tutu Atwell to win the game for the Rams. Colts played good too, but Daniel Jones threw 2 costly interceptions, and the Rams make you pay off takeaways. Rams win a great game though, 20-27. I think the Colts will be fine. Daniel Jones, he still looked very solid. He had 2 interceptions, I know, but he looked very solid. And this Rams team, I think they should be undefeated right now. That block kick is something that doesn't really happen. And, I think the Rams are the best team that, they could be the best team in the NFC as well. The NFC is a lot tighter this year. I will say, you got the Lions, the Rams, the Eagles, and then the Bucks in my eyes that are all competing for this bye this year. And, it's going to be a close race in the NFC this year for sure. Let's flip over to the AFC, Ravens versus Chiefs. I don't know what to make of either team right now for the Ravens and the Chiefs. They both don't look great. Baltimore is dealing with injury as well as some defensive issues. We talked about that last episode on the podcast. But the Chiefs were cooking on offense this week. And if there was going to be a week where the Chiefs offense was really going to show some signs of life, it was going to be this week against a weak Ravens defense. Patrick Mahomes with 270 yards and 4 touchdowns, his best game in a while. This offense was evenly distributed like a Chiefs team is regularly ran, that makes it to Super Bowls. Everybody did their part in this offense, and it shows. Chiefs win 37-20. We'll see if Patrick Mahomes can carry this into another week, but I feel like we haven't seen a 4 touchdown pass game from Patrick Mahomes in I don't know how long. It's probably been since last 2 years ago when they made the Super Bowl. I feel like last year he just never had those type of performances, and starting this year he hasn't really had those performances. So it's refreshing to see that Patrick Mahomes is starting to fire on all cylinders here. Bears versus Raiders. Geno looks bad, and I'm a Geno guy, so it hurts for me to say this. Value the football, brother. Ashton Jeanty is coming to life now. 138 yards and a rushing touchdown, as well as 2 receiving touchdowns. Caleb was getting rid of the ball quicker. I was watching the highlights. It's making me happy that he's figuring this out. Getting the ball out. He's making the throws that his arm talent. He has the ability to make some of those throws, and it's bringing me a smile to my face because he's starting to understand in real time the game and how it's played. Ben Johnson's really helping him out. I think that he should run the ball still more. But if, I was talking about it yesterday, about Caleb Williams. If you're going to run the ball, you're going to run the ball. If you're going to pass the ball, you're going to pass the ball. Don't sit around behind the line of scrimmage going back and forth, east and west. That doesn't work in this league. It doesn't work. Run, pass. You got to commit, brother. You got to commit. So it's good that Caleb Williams is starting to figure that out now. Solid game by the Bears, but they do need to work on their run defense in the future. I know Ashton Jeanty is a unit, but you've been doing it all season long. You got to figure out that run defense. It's got to get better. Bears went off of a game-sealing block to topple the Raiders 25-24. Packers versus Cowboys. The Cowboys are showing that they can compete this year despite adversity. Dak looks good this year, even with what he's got. Pickens had a game with 8 receptions for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. Javonte Williams continues his success with 85 touchdowns and 85 yards and a touchdown. This Packers team looked good too. Jordan Love with 337 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, all 3 to Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs was cooking every Dallas secondary. I was watching the game on Sunday and I was like, wow, this Packers secondary is really weak. And I understand the pass rush isn't as good either, but as a secondary, you got to help out the pass rush just a little bit. You can't be giving up so many explosive plays downfield. It doesn't work. At the beginning of the game, they gave out an explosive play to Matthew Golden, and I was just shocked. I was like, what the heck is going on here? It's like miscommunications and stuff, and it didn't look good. Josh Jacobs with over 150 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. This game ended in a 40-40 tie, first tie since 2022. Both of these teams will also compete as well. 2 more NFC teams to tack on that board there. The Packers, I forgot about them after that loss last week, and I forgot how great they are. and how good their roster is, they're another team that could really compete in the NFC. So the NFC is just really loaded this year. On to the Monday games. Dolphins versus Jets. Dolphins are slowly putting something together. Now Tyreek is out, so that hurts, but they look solid. A-Chain's being A-Chain. 99 yards and a touchdown. Darren Waller, first game back. 2 touchdowns. Very huge. He could be very huge for this offense going forward for the Dolphins. Jets didn't put it together fast enough this game. They looked underwhelming this game for most of the game. Fields, Wilson, and Hall being the dynamic trio this game. The Giants, the Jets defense did not do this team any justice. The Dolphins win 27-21. The Jets, I don't know what to think of them either. Their defense is like, on paper, they're good. They're not really injured. And then you look at this team play and you're like, what? Like, why are they? What's wrong here? You got a defensive minded coach. I don't understand what's the issue here. You shouldn't be giving up 27 points to a Dolphins squad. Like it just doesn't check out. The final Monday game, Bengals versus Broncos. Jake Browning can't ring the bell for this Bengals offense, it seems like. And I expected more out of him, but he is disappointing to say the least. For the Bengals to compete, they have to go trade for a QB. Better start looking fast because they're sitting at 2-2 right now, and they've taken 2 straight losses. They have to look for a QB right now. They can't wait till the trade deadline if they want to compete. If they genuinely think that they're going to compete this year, which I think they can with that stacked offense that they have, you got to go trade for a QB right now and start looking right now. Right now. Broncos offense was firing on all cylinders against a weak Bengals defense. J.K. Dobbins with 101 yards, Sutton with 81 yards and a touchdown. Bo Nix looked good. Broncos get the dominant home win 28-3. On to my gamers of the week here. Kenneth Gainwell, 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. Quinyon Mitchell was locking up. People are saying Quintanamo Bay. That's a nice nickname there. That should have been in my nicknames list a couple weeks ago. That's an awesome name, but that nickname lives up because he was putting receivers on an island. It was just they couldn't do anything against them. Bucky Irving and Emeka Egbuka both had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. Bucky Irving played great. Emeka Egbuka, being Emeka Egbuka, just got Rookie of the Month. Well deserved. Devin Lloyd had 2 interceptions, 2 pass deflections. Travis Etienne, 124 yards and a touchdown. Jackson Dart came in looking polished. That's why I put him in this Gamers of the Week list. He came in, he looked fine. He looked great against a good Chargers team. Puka Nacua, he's always on here. 13 receptions for 170 yards and a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 4 passing touchdowns. First time he's been here in a while for me. Ashton Jeanty, 138 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Romeo Doubs, 3 touchdowns for him. George Pickens, 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Darren Waller, 2 touchdowns on his first game back. I was thinking about throwing, it's not on my notes, but throw Amon-Ra in there. 2 touchdowns. He played great. He's always very consistent. So Amon-Ra is also a gamer of the week. On to the college football segment. Chaotic week for college football. Very more cinematic, if you could say, rather than the NFL was this week. Lots of movement taking place in the top 25. Let's get into it. Virginia beats Florida State on Friday in an upset in second overtime, 46-38. I don't know what happened that game. The defense for Florida State just looked awful. I was watching the game and I was like, just put a QB spy on the quarterback and you have him bottled. Like, I don't know. I don't understand why Tony White didn't do that. That running back for Virginia looked very good. He played for an FCS team, I heard. And I was like, what the heck? I was shocked by how well Virginia ran the ball. They couldn't pass for anything. So, I don't understand what went on in that coaching, what the coach's mindset was during that game. I'm not following. I don't know why they didn't put a QB spy on that quarterback. I think he had 4 rushing touchdowns. So some stuff to fix over in Florida State. And this weekend they play Miami. I know they play in Doak, and I think they can win this game. I'll get more into that take later, but you know, you got to wake up. You got to wake up on, especially on defense. I feel like we do, Florida State does match up better against a team like Miami because, Carson Beck, he's not really a running quarterback. And I just feel like, I just feel like they match up a little better. But I'll get into that later. Arizona State comes back to beat TCU 27-24. Sam Leavitt, I'm very high on him. I think he'll be great in the league. He'll definitely be an NFL QB soon. He looks good, man. 291 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, as well as a rushing touchdown. I think he had 60 rushing yards as well. Oregon holds on in Penn State to spoil the whiteout game 30-24. I was watching that game too in overtime. Dylan, man, that name is really, really hard to say. Dylan Thieneman, I think, with a game-sealing interception. Dante Moore looking more and more like a Heisman winner in my eyes. He really took the pressure, and they ran a good system that game against Penn State. They came back at the end, but Oregon really ran a good game plan. So it's exciting to see Dante Moore start to succeed as the redshirt sophomore. Ole Miss stuns LSU 24-19, as well as Alabama stuns Georgia 24-21. So some SEC shockers, if you might say. Tennessee holds on in OT against Mississippi State 41-34. Georgia Tech also holds on against Wake Forest 30-29. Lots of close games this week and some shockers to make the week so fun for college football that weekend. All right, let's get into my take about Florida State and Miami here. I think this is game of the year here. This is game of the year contender. These are two really high-powered teams. Miami might be the best team in the country. I think if Miami wins this game, I think they'll solidify themselves as the best team in the country, hands down. But I think they have another thing coming. Florida State, I'm not saying they'll win this game at all, but they're definitely going to compete. They're definitely going to play a good 4 quarters. Tommy Castellanos is really just on it. He's a competitor and he doesn't like to lose at all. That's one thing about him. He's a gamer. So, Florida State, it's at Florida State. And, whenever a game is played at Doak, I said this episode 1 of my podcast. Whenever a game is played at Doak Campbell Stadium, it can be won. It can. That stadium, it's just super loud. And, Carson Beck's been in those hostile environments, yes, but, we can see the impact that Doak Campbell Stadium is going to have on this game. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to take Miami on this one, but I think I'll take them 27-20, maybe 24-17, something. I think Florida State, they'll probably lose by like 7. That's probably safe to say. I don't expect them to win this game, but if they compete with Miami, I think they could stay in the top 25. 1, and then 2, if they win out the rest of their games, I think they'll be right in that college football playoff contention. All right, so get your parlays ready because this is the NFL winners of the week, and you're going to cash out for some money this weekend. Take my word for it. So let's break these games down here. No notes on this, straight up off the dome. What do I think? Heat of the moment. Tonight, Thursday night, Niners versus Rams. I'm going to take the Rams on this one. The Niners, they didn't look great last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like I said, they didn't value the football like I thought they would. And the Rams are just an even better team than the Jags are. They have a better defense than the Jags do, in my eyes, right now. And, the Rams, they're playing at home. Matt Stafford's cooking. Puka Nakua's, he's playing great. I think it's going to be, a 10-point, a couple possession game. Rams get the dub in that one, in my eyes. Dolphins versus Panthers. Wow, this is a bottom of the barrel game, in my eyes. Give me the Dolphins. I think they're starting to put something together there. Tua's starting to play a little better. I know they don't have Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, Darren Waller, they got some pieces over there that I like. So yeah, give me the Dolphins. The Panthers, they're the Panthers. They're not really that relevant. I like Bryce Young, yes I do, but they haven't really done much. So give me the Dolphins against the Panthers. I think they'll win probably by like 7. Buccaneers versus Seahawks. This is a very cool game in my eyes because the jersey matchup here is going to be insane. And that'll probably be my next segment here because of these jerseys that are going to be played this week. What are the best jerseys of all time will be my next segment here. But anyways, Buccaneers versus Seahawks. I like this game here. This is a competitive game. Two good NFC teams here. The Bucs are injured. No Mike Evans, but you got Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin looked good. He was running routes great. Then you got the Seahawks. They got a solid defense. Their offense is good. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is amazing. Kenneth Walker's good, but when I look at it, I think I go defense for defense here. I like the Bucs defense against the Seahawks. I think give me the Bucs winning by 3 because in old Bucs fashion, they'll keep it a close game in the end. In London now, Vikings versus Browns. Dylan Gabriel's playing this game, so wow. Give me the Browns on this one. Shocker. Give me the Browns on this one. Dylan Gabriel looks good. Or Dylan Gabriel, I think, is going to look good. Sorry. Judkins, I think he's going to be a lot to handle for this Vikings defense. Jerry Jeudy, I think, is going to get the ball a lot. Harold Fan, I think Dylan Gabriel is just going to figure it out against this Vikings team. And going to have a statement kind of like Jackson Dart did last week. So, give me the Browns in this one. I think they'll win by 3. I think it'll be a close game, but the Browns, they have a great defense, and I think Carson Wentz can't really do anything about that. That defense is top 2, and it's not 2. It's 1 for sure. So the Browns will win against the Vikings in week 5. Ravens versus Texans. Two really weird teams. 2 dominant teams in past years that are struggling right now, and this win for both of them would be huge to go be 2-3 right now and stay afloat. But Lamar's questionable with a hamstring injury, and who knows if he'll even play this game. I'll say this: if Lamar does play, if he ends up playing, give me the Ravens by 7. But I think I'm going to take the Texans if Cooper Rush is playing, probably by 10. Because, Cooper Rush, he's okay. He's solid. I think he's a good backup, but I don't know. I think Lamar really just makes that team run. And, without Lamar, what is the Ravens? Because their defense can't hold up right now. They can't. They're not as dominant as they usually are. So give me the Texans on this game by... I'm going to take them by 10. Yeah, by 10. Saints Giants. Give me the Giants on this one. Jackson Dart wants his revenge on the Saints. The Saints were going to pick him apparently, and Jackson Dart, he's out for revenge now. I think the Giants are going to start looking solid. Cam Scatterbo's running the ball hard. I think that the game will be very competitive in my eyes because that's what the Saints have been doing this season. They've been keeping all the games competitive, even though they're 0-4. So give me the Giants by 3 on this game. And it's at the Saints. So yeah, give me the Giants by 3. And they'll escape with an away win in this one. Broncos versus Eagles. Now, okay, so I think any a basic NFL fan would say pick the Eagles. They're that 4-0 team. But then I look and I say, wow, like the Broncos have a good defense in my eyes. And Bo Nix is he's putting something together there. They didn't look bad on Monday. I think it'll be a close game. The Eagles have been playing in some close games this year, just like the Bucs have. I think I'm going to take the Eagles by 7, but it's a very competitive game, and the Broncos are they are very competitive themselves. Bo Nix is gonna strive to compete and win. So give me the Eagles by 7 on this one, but another close call for the Eagles in that one. Cowboys versus Jets. Give me the Cowboys. I don't see the Jets really competing that much against the Cowboys. I think it'll be a high scoring game. I guess that's what we could call it. I think the Cowboys will probably win by 10 on that one, but yeah, the Cowboys, they look solid last Sunday night against the Packers. So yeah, give me the Cowboys on that one. Raiders versus Colts. Give me the Colts on that one. If the Colts are really a dominant and competitive team, if they want to prove that they're one of the best teams in the AFC, they have to go out and really beat a team like the Raiders. The Raiders, they're shot, and they really have to go out and prove, identify their weaknesses and just hone on them. And I think the Colts should win this game comfortably by a couple touchdowns. Give me the Colts against the Raiders. Titans versus Cardinals. Give me the Cardinals. They'll bounce back here, but Cam Ward needs to get rid of the ball quicker, and I know he doesn't have the roster for it, but you can't do everything yourself, man. I think the Cardinals, if Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray start to connect better like they did in the second half of the Thursday game, then yes, we could see a dominant Cardinals win here. Give me the Cardinals by 10 here. Chargers versus Commanders. Jaden Daniels is starting now. So we're now seeing Jaden Daniels start. So I don't know. We'll see how that knee holds up for him. We think the Chargers, they did lose. Yes, they did. But that's a hard defense to play against, and they're injured. Oof. You know what? I love the Chargers, but give me the Commanders on this one. I think the Chargers are too banged up right now. Yes, they're a good team, but the Chargers are too banged up right now to win this game. So give me the Commanders by 3. It's going to be a very close game in my eyes. All right, now we have Lions versus Bengals. The Bengals, they haven't made any moves. As far as quarterback goes, they haven't made any moves yet, and I'm not a big fan of it. So I think the Lions are comfortably going to win this game. It's an away game for the Lions, but I feel like that they are going to win in the end. Away. I don't see the Bengals really putting up much of a fight here. They just don't have the squad to compete, especially with Drake Browning back there at quarterback. It looks rough. So give me the Lions probably by 17. I don't think it's going to be close at all. It's not going to look good. So give me the Lions. Patriots versus Bills. I think this game is going to be more competitive than we think just because it's a divisional game. But the Bills are hot right now. They're firing on all cylinders. They're one of the only 2 undefeated teams in the league right now. We'll get into later, how far they'll go. So, I don't know. I think the Bills really are going to comfortably take this game as well. Probably by about 10. The Bills, like I said, firing good, but let's not underestimate the Patriots here. They're 2-2 right now. Drake May is looking solid as of late. So I'm liking the Patriots here, but it's the Bills in the end of the day. It's the Bills. So give me the Bills by 10 here. And then Monday, Chiefs versus Jaguars. This is a good game here. I'm going to take the Jaguars on this one. I think the Jags defense is playing very well right now. I think that they won't get as much takeaways because Patrick Mahomes at the end of the day is back there, but they're going to compete. And, if Trevor Lawrence can really drive them down the field a couple times and score, I think that they could take this game comfortably and really get a statement win to become 4-1 on the season. So give me the Jags here by 3. I firmly believe in the Jags to win this game. This is a very winnable, competitive game for the Jags right here. Give me the Jags on Monday night. All right, next couple segments here. We're gonna do a couple interesting ones, fun ones as well. We're gonna be seeing the best jerseys ever in NFL history. I brought this up because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seattle Seahawks are going to be playing on Sunday at 4, and that is one of the best jersey matchups I have ever seen. Both of those jerseys are very nice. I like those jerseys. I like the blue on the Seahawks jerseys with the green helmets, with the green accent on the helmet. It looks really, really retro-y, really cool. Love those. And then the Bucs with their white creamsicles, they wore those a couple weeks ago. They look absolutely phenomenal. And I think those are one of the best jerseys in the league. But, I really think the best jersey in the league is the Eagles Kelly Green. Now, hear me out here. Those jerseys are insane in my eyes. When I see them put it on, and I don't like the Eagles like that. But when I see those jerseys get thrown on, I instantly am like, wow, these are not nice jerseys. Like, they were cooking. They were cooking back in the day with those jerseys. I love them. I think they're great. Another one I weirdly like are those Pittsburgh Steelers striped uniforms. I think they wore them like 2016 was their color rush. It was so cool. I liked them. I don't know why. It was like the black and yellow. It was, I don't know. It was an acquired taste for sure. But those jerseys really bring me back a lot of memories. I do like the Packers jerseys. Current jerseys. I think they're really simple and really nice. Kind of like, I also like the Cowboys jerseys because they have the same vibe going, the Packers and the Cowboys, but those are simple yet clean jerseys I love. I like the Chargers baby blues. I think those are nice. Oh, man. The Jaguars have a nice all teal jersey, which I do love. And then, more recently, I do like the Bengals whiteout jerseys, as well as the Vikings whiteout jerseys. I think they look very nice. And, just whiteout jerseys in general should be in the color in the jersey collection there for a lot of teams. I like them. I like the whiteout jerseys. They're very clean, very nice, and the colors, the dominant colors, really pop on the field. So I think those are my favorite jerseys that I like. Probably my favorite one is the Eagles Kelly Green, like I said, but I really do like those whiteout jerseys. They are amazing. All right, so there's only 2 undefeated teams left in the league. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills. They're both sitting at 4-0 right now. So I'm going to look at their schedules and I'm going to see, how far will they go until they are not undefeated? All right, so let's look here. They play the Broncos this weekend. I think they'll win against the Broncos. They play the Giants. I think they can win against the Giants. I think that'll be a closer game than, expected just because divisional game, and I think the Giants are going to ride hot right now. So that's going to be a closer game than expected. They should beat the Vikings, I think. I think that's a safe game too. Another Giants game. So I think they'll win against them. And then you play the Packers. And that's a tough game. I think that's where they finally lose. When they play the Packers, when they'll finally lose, and they'll go on a 2-game losing streak, actually, because they play the Lions right after that. And I think the Lions are a great team now. So, yeah, man, I think I think the Eagles could possibly win 3 or 4 games going forward here. They play the Bills. They play the Chargers. That's a tough game. They play the Lions and then the Packers. That's probably 4 games that are really hard to decide who the winners of those games are going to be going forward. So I think the Eagles will get to about 7-8-0 before they finally take their first L. Let's look at the Buffalo Bills here. Let me type this in here. And, for the Bills, it's a little bit, I don't know who's better, the Eagles or the Bills. I think the Eagles are better. They have a better roster. But the Bills right now are a better team. They play the Falcons on Monday, they play the Patriots this weekend. They're going to beat the Patriots. They'll beat the Falcons. They play the Falcons, the Panthers. They'll win them against the Panthers. Then they play the Chiefs. And I think they can beat the Chiefs. I think they can. I think they're the Chiefs killers. I've said that on this podcast before. I think they can beat the Chiefs. I think they can beat the Dolphins, the Bucks. If the Bucks are healthy, that could be a dangerous game there. I think they can beat the Bucks though for sure. They play the Texans. I think they can beat the Texans. Then they play the Steelers, and that's a trap game because if the Steelers get going, they could be really dangerous the rest of this year. So I think they could take their first L right there against the Steelers. And then they play the Eagles. That could be a possible loss. So I think they'll probably get they'll probably get to about 10-0 before they take their first L. So two teams, I don't think these teams are going to go undefeated, which is insane how Miami went undefeated. And also the Patriots did, but they ended up losing the Super Bowl. But it was crazy how an NFL team went undefeated, 17-0. I think that feat will be hard to reach again. Going undefeated. You have to stay healthy. There's a lot of things that have to click for you. You have to be healthy. Your team has to perform every single week. You have to stay competitive in every single game. And I feel like just now, with especially just how injuries happen, it's very hard to go undefeated, let alone only lose 3 games now. It's hard. If you lose about 5 to 6 games, you're one of the best teams in the league. So it's hard to go undefeated, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. I don't think there's a one team that I could really pick out that you could put together a team full of Pro Bowlers, and I'd be like, there's going to be some hiccups along the way with that team, just because it's just so hard to win. It's super hard to be so dominant in the NFL, and only a few teams show that year in year. So the Eagles and the Bills, we'll see how far they get, but I think both of their times will be coming soon. On to some NBA news. Jared McCain for the 76ers out with I think it's something in his thumb. That sucks. Jared McCain, before he got injured, was very good for the 76ers last year, and then had a season-ending injury. He was about to be Rookie of the Year that year in my eyes. And now with this thumb thing, you got to stay healthy, brother. You got to stay healthy. That's a problem with a lot of these NBA players, is that they are great when they play, and then they get injured, and it's like, where are you? So, Derrick Rose is the biggest one. He's the biggest what if. Grant Hill as well. It's sad to see some of these players with so much talent be ridiculed by injury. Al Horford signs with the Warriors, as well as Jonathan Kuminga coming back. This is huge. Both of those moves are huge for the Warriors, as well as they got Seth Curry off the bench for them. They made a few moves these past couple weeks, and I see the Warriors as competing in the Eastern Conference this year. Western Conference this year. The Warriors, they're there, man. If Steph Curry doesn't get injured last year, I think they make it all the way to the conference championship, just because he was playing so dominant last year. Steph Curry ages like fine wine. Like he goes, and I feel like he just gets better every single year. His craft is always being perfected every single year, and his art of shooting, it doesn't, like, his age doesn't really diminish that. It's a flick of the wrist for him. So he ages like fine wine. He gets better every single year. I expect the same out of him this year. And when you add some of these pieces in, especially a guy like Al Horford, who he's old, but he is probably the best center the Warriors have had since the 2020s. So you get him. Kuminga is going to be amazing. It's good that they got him back on a 3-year deal, I believe. And now the Warriors can really think about, competing right now and then competing later with the young talent that they do have on their team. So I like the path that the Warriors are taking. And then Quentin Grimes, a guy that I loved at the end of last year, got traded at the trade deadline, I believe, to the Philadelphia 76ers, started balling out for them and really earned his way to get a better contract in free agency, but ended up taking a deal with the Sixers to stay, which is good because now he'll start for them. And, he's back in his system where he can average 20 points like he did at the end of last season. So it's good for Quentin Grimes to stay close to where he was successful at right now. And then I think it's only a 1-year deal. So next year he could really make some money somewhere else if he chooses. But Quentin Grimes could really be a successful point guard this year, especially for the 76ers with Joel Embiid and a lot of other pieces that could really, he could really benefit off of. So Quentin Grimes, watch out for him. And then I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets. I love this team that they've assembled over there. They have a lot. They have Nikola Jokic, the best player in the NBA in my eyes, and then they have a good supporting cast. And they bring in Cam Johnson, and they bring back Bruce Brown, which really helps because Bruce Brown, I think people forget that, he won he won the championship with the Denver Nuggets. And he was a big part of that. He was a big part of that championship. He really came up clutch for them and put them over the top. So for him to be back, as well as Cam Johnson, who is a great 3-point shooter, Jokic has a lot of options now, and it's not seeming like he has to have these, 10-day contract players that he has to deal with. And, they've got a good supporting cast around them. I'll be watching the Denver Nuggets this year. I like a lot of their players. Braun, Peyton Watson, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown. They have a lot of guys. Zeke Naji, another one. These are guys that can eventually be really good, but they could compete this year and really win a title, especially with how solid of a team that they have. Jalen Suggs of the Orlando Magic was talking with reporters, and he said that him and Desmond Bane could possibly be the best backcourt in the NBA. And this is not a crazy statement in my eyes. Yes, there's a lot of good backcourts, but these are, Desmond Bane just got brought in as a 3-point shooter for the Magic, who were struggling from deep. I think they're the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. And for him to really come in and really space out this Magic team and help out their 3-point percentage, he has a good element to her backcourt. But let's not forget here, Desmond Bane is a scrappy defensive player, and that's why Jamal Mosley traded those 5 first-round picks to the Grizzlies for him, because Jamal Mosley is in love with guys like those who, have that defensive upside and really do perform on offense. Jalen Suggs, I think he's the best perimeter defender in the league, along with Drew Holiday. But these two guys can really lock up on defense, and it's not a crazy statement to say that, for sure. Let's talk about the Magic, though. They are young. They can compete, and we'll see if they can make it to a conference championship this year. I can possibly see that in a Western Conference. I think they could be better than the Celtics this year. The Cavs is what they're going to have to face, as well as the Knicks. They're both really good teams in my eyes. So there's some competition in the West for sure, but I like this Magic group, and I think they can make the conference championship this year. That's not a crazy statement. So the Orlando Magic, watch out for them for sure. So that's all the NBA news that we have this week, and that's going to cap it off for episode 5 of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I am your host, Kay Magyar, bringing you episodes every single Friday. Let's have a good weekend of sports, and I'll see you guys all next week.